obviously with all the hype surrounding the Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier fight, one of the most overlooked fights on the card for most casuals was the Michel Pereira versus Niko Price fight. Obviously hardcore fans were quite excited for this fight because you had Michel Pereira, who was a unpredictable fighter who does a lot of showmanship such as flips and jumping off cages and such, and then you had Niko Price, who's an absolute warrior, and this fight didn't disappoint. This might have been the best fight of the night. If you look at the actual fight, the first 2 rounds, Michel Pereira just completely bamboozled him with his movement. I think in the second round he almost he done this flip and he managed to get into a full mount against Niko Price, and he managed to do a Kimura, and he almost got him on his back, but then Niko Price managed to get out of it. It was a brutal showing. I think in the last round there was a point in the fight where Niko Price landed a right hand and it kind of wobbled him, and then he kind of went for it, and they both went back and forth like for the entire fight, and it was an entertaining fight for me. The first 2 rounds were quite entertaining. The last round, obviously, Niko Price really put it on him. When the decision was called and Michel Pereira won the fight, there's a look of disappointment in Niko Price's face, and just looking at his body language when the fight finished, I think he had the assumption that he clearly won that fight. To be fair, with fighters, most of the time when they fight, they usually do think that they won the fight because they're more focused on what they're doing right rather than what their opponent is doing right when they're in the heat of the moment of actually fighting. So yeah, it was a decent fight. I wouldn't say it's the best fight ever, but it was definitely a decent fight that was fun to watch. So in my opinion, where does them both go from here? Niko Price didn't embarrass himself. He gave a very game performance and he took a lot of punishment and he kept coming forward. Michel Pereira obviously out slicked him. But I think it's ironic, these flashy fighters don't usually have a lot of good stamina. If you look at them, if you look at the likes of Michel Pereira, Zabit, also like Conor McGregor to some extent, these were flashy strikers, but for some reason they don't have the best stamina. While you look at other fighters that are more rudimentary, like Nate Diaz and to be fair, there is one fight that's an exception to the rule, which is a prime Tony Ferguson. Prime Tony Ferguson was a flashy, dynamic fighter, but his stamina was incredible. But usually, the flashy fighters don't seem to have the best stamina. I think they put everything into every punch, and they don't pace themselves as well because they get excited and they try to do stuff that's show a bit of showmanship and show what skills that they've got, while fighters that are more rudimentary and stick to the fundamentals and are not as flashy, they conserve their energy better, so they have better stamina than fighters that are flashy, like the likes of Zabit and Michel Pereira. These fighters are very flashy, but because they're flashy, they probably don't pace themselves as well, and during the last round they seem to suffer. I think the same thing happened with Michel Pereira in one of his fights. The first round he expended all of his energy trying to run at the guy and doing flips and doing all types of crazy stuff off the cage, but then towards the last round he got beat because he ran out of stamina. Michel Pereira is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. I also love Zabit as well. These flashy fighters, they might not be like the best fighters in terms of conserving their energy and having the best stamina, but I think they're very entertaining to watch and fun. And to be fair, the reason why I watch MMA and boxing is because I find it fun to watch. So these are the fighters that I like to watch. These fighters that are very flashy, they're balls to the wall, they take risks. These types of fighters are my type of fighters to watch. Like a Tony Ferguson, for example, a dynamic fighter that does things out of the blue, like out of nowhere. He would get into like different positions, and he's a dynamic striker. These fighters are what I find fun to watch. In terms of Michel Pereira, he's on a free fight undefeated streak right now, and he looks quite epic. I think in this fight against Niko Price, he knew that he was in there against a legitimate fighter, a legitimate threat. So although he was a little bit flashy, he wasn't as flashy as he was in his previous fights. I think he tries conserving his energy more. The ironic thing is, even though he tried doing that, in the last round he almost gassed out. So yeah, it's going to be fun watching his career blossom, see where he goes from here. Do I think he's ready for the top guys? I don't think so. I think he needs several more fights just to build up a win streak, and on top of that, I think build up his style, because usually he's a very flashy fighter, but lately he's been I think he's trying to rein it in a bit, because I think one of his losses, when he was a little bit too flashy, he probably got into his head like, listen, I can be flashy, but I need to conserve it a bit. I need to use it in sparing moments. I can't do it every time, and I can't just go balls to the wall in the first round, because in the later rounds I need to conserve my energy more. So I think he's learning his lesson, and he's maturing as a fighter, and he's still relatively young. He's only 26 or 27, so he's got a long time left in the sport if he doesn't get injured, or if he doesn't lose love for the game and just decide that that's it, he's done. So yeah, that's my opinion. Tell me your opinions. Where do you think Niko Price goes from here? Where do you think Michel Pereira goes from here? I think Michel Pereira is one of them fighters unless he becomes a huge star, then a lot of people will probably try avoiding him, because he's a high risk, low reward type fighter, because even though he does have a little bit of a following for his crazy style, he's a fighter that you can quite easily avoid. I think Zabit is the same way. Like, Zabit does have a bit of a following, but because he's so inactive, and also because of his actual talent, a lot of fighters in the weight class are probably like, you know what, I don't want no smoke with this guy. Unless he becomes a bigger star and he starts doing more stuff, I don't think a lot of people would want to fight him. But then again, welterweight is just stacked with talent. I don't think he's ready for the top guys, for the top 10 yet, but I think he's going to get there in several fights if he doesn't lose, and if he keeps maturing. And sorry, the mic cut off there a little bit, I do apologize. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Tell me your thoughts. Where do you think Michel Pereira goes from here, and what do you think happens with Niko Price, and who do you think they're going to fight next? That's all I've got to say right now. Like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace out.